All right, thank you and everyone for joining the Internet Value Foundation New York, episode 173, The Culture of Biological Organization. I think it's going to be a fun one, probably be a quick little space here, because I know we have some pretty other fun topics to talk about today, so maybe we'll host a different space, or somebody might be hosting a different space in the community later on, so we can talk about some of the distributed ledger technology um, announcements that have come out today. However, I'm going to keep it strictly on two videos I posted up top, both of them being videos that were posted on YouTube by Michael Levin, and uh, each being a different researcher who he has hosted and allowed to speak about their research that's going on, based off of papers that he's written actually, and so their research coming into like some sort of coordinated scheme from the ethos of the philosophical approaches that Michael has been taking in his scientific discoveries. So it's a pretty cool little topic, and it speaks about the and of course, all of this being in my own wording, I recommend everybody goes and watches these videos afterwards. But it speaks about the additional organization that takes place in which the biological units, us being us, and their conformed actionable forms then represent larger macroscopic organizations together. And I think it was from the perspective of it being additional layers on top of what already exists from our evolutionary state in which our biological forms are. So I think it's a really interesting thing. And of course, you can't say the word culture without saying the word cult. And even thinking about it from a very microscopic perspective, like a petri dish, right, or a culture, as it is actually termed in some cases. And I think it's a really great example. And from a smaller level perspective, in which the organization of all of these different types of microbial bacterium come together and start forming what looks like to be mounds in some cases, or some sort of organized structure that grows over time. And so, of course, that only occurs because there's some sort of organization between the biological units that are eating the culture up. But it's very similar to the description and the way that from a macroscopic point of view, talking about our culture as a species and how it's developed. How does it develop? Why does it develop the way it does? I think the video goes into it really well. And so feel free, anybody who wants to, you guys want to come up, Vet and Shellfish, welcome to the space, and Fridge, Sugar, McQuack. I scared him away a second ago there, but welcome back, McQuack. Yeah, I'm going to just take a second here. I've got some berries cooking, so I don't want to leave them in the pot for too long. So I'm going to strain them real quick and get right back to it. Welcome up, Shellfish and McQuack. Oh, or neither. That was weird. I don't know if spaces are glitching at the moment. Just give me 1 second here. So yeah, so I'll go back to where I started. So today, speaking about the culture of biological organization, specifically in units and such as us as our species has developed. And some of the methodologies behind why maybe the types of the way that we have organized has had its onset effect. And if looking at this from a macroscopic point of view, in which different actionable relations, um, in inside of the spectrum in which that organization exists, different philosophical ideals or concepts in which they manifest has this Merkle tree of effect. And I think, when you think about it from a development standpoint, the significance of the singularity of that setup of philosophical approaches. For one example, Stoicism, right? Stoicism is a philosophical approach in which the user is is always attempting to render themselves in a questionable state, philosophically, always questioning the status of not what is, but always what is to be, based off of the pretense of information that they have. And so I think it's a really great example of where the culture of biological organization can take hold and create its own even title of ethos of philosophical thinking, Stoicism. And of course, there are many different types of thought out there. I think they're just great examples of what was being spoken about in this video. And so, why does it matter? Why would it really matter that much to us as a species pertaining to the understanding of the way that organization occurs in our species and the reflective manner in which what actions can be done to possibly see those types of reflections equalize into, of course, the world that we all want to live in. So I think it's interesting. Shellfish, you got any ideas on it?
Not yet. If you don't mind speaking a little bit more on it. I actually, I had clicked on it and put it on my page to watch later today. So I'm glad that you were discussing it, so I can go dive into it a little bit deeper later, after your space.
Well, some of the questions that I remember Michael posing in the video is him speaking about it from his own relative terms, right? The test that he does, and so more so cellular scopic, right? So looking at the cells and their interactions, and well, why do they do exactly what they do? And when an embryo is essentially diffused of cells, why does the cells grow in size to perform this same type of anatomical setup in which the anatomy and the anatomical representations of all of the units all take place in some sort of organized manner. And it was interesting because as much as the cultural aspect of it from this individual Ivan is being spoken about um, from a very macroscopic point of view, the way that we all interact with each other and the sociological concepts of us. But even from a cellular standpoint, what is the difference in meaningfulness of why some cells that interact in combination of trying to convince other cells to, hey, we should build an eye, right? There should be an eye right here, not a liver or something like that. What what is the relational difference or the cultural difference in which why one cell would do something and not another thing? Where does the disconnect come from? Yeah, I think it's a really interesting concept when thinking about things like cancer.
I think I go the other way when I think about it. Instead of having just the if then in the moment, like cause effect, when or how many cells combining together to create a consciousness becomes a block of if thens to create like an agenda or a motive to get more than just one objective done. Because I feel like that's just like basic programming at the cellular level, right? But once you have a grouping together and it creates an organ, and that organ is decided to perform a function as a collective, like when does that take place? I don't know. I feel like we're doing the same thing. I feel like every time I come into these spaces, it really is a reflection of the human anatomy, as each one of us. kind of as a cell, and we become a collective with our own little agendas in the room. So when does it actually switch over to a blockchain of if thens? I think in religion it's only like three, right? Or is it two or more? And you can start creating intention that manifests. God damn it, Ranger, I hate when you like leave me hanging like that.
I'm not sure what you meant by the last part, or the maybe you can repeat it all.
Or the whole thing? Oh, great. No. Okay, it was more it was about the at the cellular level. You were saying that freaking, Levine was talking about how, um, each I don't know, just go back to your thing. I'm done. I tap out.
Yeah, I was talking about how, why does one cell break away, and or commit to a relationable aspect that's it's been convinced to do from another cell, right? So you think about like your liver, right? Your liver is a composition of a whole bunch of cells that are all interacting with each other on some sort of electromagnetic chemical level. But what made that those cells become liver cells and not like a kidney cell, right? It was the interaction on a localized level while the production was occurring that cells in that area had some sort of anatomical view and response and notion to saying, well, the way that we're situated at the moment from the realms of what we believe to be the next Merkle tree of effects of steps is we need to become a liver right now. And so, like, it becomes this kind of, we're culturally speaking about it from a philosophical or sociological standpoint, but even from a cellular standpoint, right? Just like you had called us cells, what determines what determines the stasis and status of the individual actionable set of processes that are actually going to occur to make that organization, be it the liver. Um,
So
and
you think it's proximity and frequency?
yeah, it definitely plays a large role into it for sure because proximity is important when you talk about the relation of how far the extent of the electromagnetic frequency or signal is able to reach. You could even think about it like this: if you needed help with something and you started screaming "help, help, help," and there's no one around you to help. In most cases, you're probably not going to get help. And so, a cell that might be divided and starts speaking a different language than all of the other cells around it might seem out of place and be in a dystopia. We could maybe call that like cancer, right? In some sense, is a disconnect of relationable status between these operations. Um, I forgot what the last thing I was going to say there. Though. Sorry.
Well, even if your cell kind of migrates and reacclimates and becomes part of, say, the kidneys, right? So now it's vibing with the kidney energy, the frequency, the proximity. It's been kind of recycled, stem cell down to that, and then re-upped into that grouping. But if it wanders too far away and it's away from all those frequencies, then it's just a cell, which could kind of go off into the skin realm and just flake off and become dust, and then it's no longer in that grouping at all. It just ceases to exist.
Wait, what? Wait, what happened? The cell ceased to exist?
It turns into ashes to ashes, right? Dust. It's no longer part of the organism anymore. It's ceased. It no longer carries frequency. It no longer carries energy because it's meandered so far from its original intention, and life force, right? So it I don't know, maybe that's what happens in space.
Well, I'm
Maybe if we meander too far from Earth, we cease to be what we originally were.
Well, we'll always cease to be what we originally were, as every moment is a different moment. You're always never going to be ever the same thing that you were. But, energy never dies; it only changes form. However, it's a great example of your you or the cell in this sense, right? But here's what changes it, right? Back to the culture of the biological organization. If you were screaming help, 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 and there was five people around you, and those five people got all up on the same level of realizing you needed help, and then associated themselves with the next process they were going to do is help you, you've now organized a set of biological units in coordination with each other to complete a task. And this is the culture of biological organization. Your signal was help. You screamed help, and it effectively brought all of the other biological units around you to come and help you with the process that you need help with. How do we then take that understanding and the game theory behind it, because it very much so is a game theory plausible setting, and take it all the way to this microscopic level, and um, I think there's a lot of interesting ways to then start looking at that for biological units as ourselves, our organs, and all of the different things that are interacting inside of us. And if I'm sorry.
You know, that leads me to what I was spurred in my head as collective intelligence. You've seen like all these starlings that fly in formation and turn at a drop of a hat, at a down a dime. How who's to say how wide that field is, where the how wide the intelligence can be shared? What is the proximity requirement? Is it at a cellular level? Those birds are obviously farther apart than that. People, do they share some kind of other near field communication, or farther field quantum entanglement where people are uh, anyway, another rabbit hole. That's what all I've got though.
I like that you brought up quantum entanglement here, actually, because I think it's going to be one of the conceptual flows of architecture in which enables a very strong collective um, apparatus in which the culture behind our ability to organize uh, is a manifold on a global scale. Of course, not today. It is not very much so like that, as much as it actually is in some senses, right? I mean, there are people who believe the same things all over the world, right? In some sense, and so yeah. I mean, I think the nature of the entangled organization is for sure going to take hold, and I think we've seen ebbs and flows of it, at least the way that we have it historically written, where the organization of us as a biological unit compresses and decompresses and compresses and decompresses, and we can also use terms like distributed and centralized and decentralized to kind of represent those different types of ethoses at the maybe the marks in time of the epochs we have historically written down. So yeah, I think it's important. It was a great throw in. Any other thoughts from anybody else? And anybody in the speaker panel, please feel free, guys, to hit the request and come up if you guys would like. I mean, in the listener panel, sorry, speakers are already up here, obviously. It's going to be a quick space. I'm probably going to keep it only going for like another 10 to 15 minutes because this is it's a very specific topic, and if everybody hasn't gotten a chance to watch that video yet, it's not the easiest to kind of maybe keep up with the specific. Oh man, my brain today. Specificities of it. Thank you.
Did you want to go over the first video since you only have a few minutes? The non-neural intelligence, or is that kind of the same?
Very similar. That's actually why I posted it up there. So the non-neural intelligence speaks to the how I was speaking about the cellular apparatus earlier. So the Merkle tree of effects, understanding how one cell anatomically that could be separated by multiple cells is able to have a communication that actually represents a flow in which the cell five cells down from it gets the message and understands the next procedural step to take, right? Like, how does the liver organize itself? I mean, liver composed of many different cells, and of course, your liver not being more than a couple inches, it was like 7 inches or something like that, I think, in dimension of length. Yeah, maybe even a little bit smaller than that, right? Something like 6.5 inches. Depends on the person, of course. The the thought of well, how does one cell on the left hand side of the liver communicate to the cell on the right hand side of the liver, and they all know to produce the same types of enzymes, in which helps you uh, um, break down whatever process it needs to hormonally for your body. The It's a great question, right? And he goes into a little bit of it from a Santosh goes into it a little bit from a also a like a higher level perspective, where he really tries to break it down from a Merkle tree effect of understanding the ionization and deionization of the ability to have these electromagnetic frequencies manifest into a signal to other cells in the apparatus. It's actually very interesting, because I think it relates to computational systems. I shouldn't say that, because we are a computational system, very much so in my belief. But and everything is. But it relates to synthetic computational systems, the computers, the way that we use computational systems today mechanically. And if you think about transistors, and the way that inside of a microchip you have all of these different transistors that set up essentially like almost like pipes. If you would think about copper pipes in the back of your house that are running that you run water through, right? You have all of these different pipes in which there is a electromagnetic frequency that is able to flow through it, and it either ionizes or deionizes a channel, and which further pushes an electrical signal down that piping, and has another on and off effect, right? A one or a zero in some cases. But from that one and zero, you're able to get very long strings of one and zeros, which then are able to be acclimated into some sort of conceptual syntax that we have it as computer languages. But the same type of kind of breakdown, in which there's this ionization, deionization of processes in the forms of biological units, which are molecular in nature, and uh, um, sorry, metabolic, is really the two large differences, of course, in the way that the systems exist. But systematically, I think there's an interesting notion of the way that you can think about the same type of Merkle tree, in which you have this set up on a graph, right? And you take your Merkle tree and you say, this is my x-axis, this is my y-axis. How do I equivalate all of these steps and processes that I want to see happen from my single step and process that I'm going to make happen? Or even multiple. I mean, maybe you need multiple things, like curing cancer, right? Maybe you need multiple injections, you need multiple different electromagnetic frequencies, or whatever exact type of scenario needs to play out. But the idea is we got to study and understand that Merkle tree of effects, so that we can then recreate the actionable step of processes that we want to see. Was that an explainer?
No, it was really good. Thank you. That was a good breakdown.
I'm out of breath.
Drink some water.
I'm making soda pop.
You're making soda pop?
Yes. Yeah, I called it soda pop, see?
I
Because it's not like a Coca Cola or something like that.
I do not.
Yes,
I do not drink
it's a
soda. I
juice.
drink the only thing I drink lately is like the a lot um drinks. It's root beer, but it's not soda. It's kind of like oh god, what are those things called? Kombucha, right? Kombucha. Kind
Yes,
of
this is
like that.
a kombucha as well. Well, I mean, real soda is essentially like depending how you make it. I make it like a live cultured kombucha. Yeah,
Yeah, I don't think I've had soda in over a year.
it was 11 years for me the other day.
It's one of those things that once you drink one, it's so easy to drink. I just stay away.
Well, if you're drinking one in America, it has specialized ingredients in it. So, that's got the. But actually, you know what? This would be an interesting question, Vet, if you're able to come up. Although I'm pretty sure I have the answer to it already. I don't think they have high fructose corn syrup in the in at least in Germany for sure. But I could be mistaken. At least in Europe, for the most part, it's not utilized. But yeah, going back to the subject, right? Um, Actually, it's kind of still is part of the subject, right? Cultural organization, biological organization, from a cultural aspect. Why do we drink soda? Who is the inventor of soda, and how did that get pushed in such a way where there is a very strong belief and ethos behind the individuals drinking the soda. Of course, that's why it exists in its form today. Still, these are all interesting questions, and they all relate to the subject at hand. The understanding of the Merkle tree of the effects, the game theory behind the Merkle tree. What does it show? Does it reveal the truth in nature? Or does nature create the Merkle tree in which the effect of is us? I think they both relate, and there is just as equal and actionable accountability for the way that things are and the way that they're represented.
Uncle, what do you think? Is he still speaker for you?
Yeah, Ron, you there? He's eating the mushrooms. Ron,
Right?
not supposed to eat the mushrooms
I,
while
I am
Clubhouse.
here. Wasn't able to hear for a little bit. A train is going by right now. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
I'm
You
I'm
picking the
sitting
mushrooms then?
outside. No. Well, occasionally, but no, not for a while. I grow lion's mane and oysters and chestnuts and take them to the farmer's market. Got a new farmer's market I'm starting coming up summer and been going to a different one every Saturday. And just kind of retirement extra stuff and putting that in crypto and playing.
Do you feel like the only way to talk to your cellular level is through the psilocybin part, or can you connect on a level just as deep
I,
with other
I
mushrooms that don't have that? Do you think that's the connection that allows you
no,
to have that, or what do you think?
I don't think there's any physical substance that you need for that connection. I think you can get there. It's just a frame of mind. I think that the physical substance gives you a reset that changes kind of the way your brain neural pathways. It gives it additional connections within there that it forgot it had. Maybe I don't know how it works, but that's kind of what I envision. Uh, I don't do it often. Did it for a reset after the chemo, but uh, I didn't want to do anything. Didn't want to be around anybody, and needed to switch gears and come back to join the world.
Yes, and psilocybin has had some great research done on it in the effects of helping nerve endings repair themselves, and of course, from a sociological standpoint, can help bring relationable aspects that you maybe believed up to help yourself. So yeah, if it helped you, man, it's very great to hear. It's also funny, Shellfish. Of course, he didn't mention magic mushrooms at all, but it was the only thing that you brought up there. You mentioned three different types of mushrooms that you could eat, which are
No,
or used for
well,
different use cases.
it was only I was just curious to see if that was the element that um you had to have. God, I
In
never.
combination
Well,
with the
yeah.
psilocybin, the lion's mane.
The thing is it also though plays into exactly what I was speaking about, right? The culture of biological organization. His mind, your mind, being the organization of your biological unit, in which you believe to, of course, be where the majority of your personality or perceived notion of self maybe exist, right? Um, and the mushrooms having a Merkle tree of an effect, if you will, in which the changes that came from it has some sort of different set in which your architecture or your substrate of the biological organization that you have had a manifold change. Well, what exactly in psilocybin? Of course, we know psilocybin to be the um, molecular formation of the chemical substance in which its interaction in our substrate has these manifold of changes. Why and what exactly is it doing? And in relation to um, the set of processes that comes from it, that Merkle tree of an effect. Why is it having that effect? These, of course, it's something that needs to be studied, but it plays exactly into what we were speaking about, right? The understanding of each one of these different sets of game theory actions and their effects and results that they have, from a substantial amount of actionable processes that can come from it. Yeah, it's very cool to hear though, Uncle, and thank you for sharing it.
I'm
Absolutely. Thank you.
Uncle, I hope you do a space on this because I'm a firm believer in psilocybin and the different type of mushrooms with or without. And I know there's been a lot of studies on the communication between the networks. So I would love to hear more on that sometime if you do a
Yeah,
space.
I'd like to do that. I'm just kind of getting my feet wet talking on spaces and things. So as I get a little bit more practice, I may try to organize something like that and maybe ask reach out for you for a co-host.
Beautiful.
There you go. I take many mushrooms daily. I mean, other
Yeah,
than I take
I
lion's
do
mane
as well.
as both of uh um liquid and um a powdered form of it. But the powdered form has chaga, lion's mane, maitake, reishi, agaricus, shiitake, turkey tail, and cordyceps. And I take that on the daily.
Love
Yeah,
it.
those are all great mushrooms. We could talk for an hour about all the different things those do.
Yeah, I for the and I've been taking them for a couple of years now, and I as soon as because I've taken many complexes of vitamins and nutrients throughout my life. As soon as I started taking this complex, I felt it right away. Just not only from a energy standpoint, but from my digestive standpoint, an alert standpoint. Yeah, it really I felt the effects very quickly. It was something that I definitely believe in.
For autoimmune, huge effect on me, and brain like clarity, like the mental fog post partum, or like because I had two kids, whatever. It's helped a lot with mental clarity. So yeah, I mean, Uncle, you've came in and there was just so many new things that they're finding it helps with. I'm fascinated with like the skin cancer being in Florida. That was what I had reached out to you for because they've been doing studies on combating skin cancer. So wild.
Right.
So many use
Yeah,
cases.
that mushroom you find in a Chinese soup that looks like a cauliflower, the white fluffy one, that is great mushroom for skin. It's tremella.
Do you think it's something that you should be taking daily, or is this something that's more of like a topical tincture after?
I think everything's about getting to a point of balance and staying there. So if you're out of balance, then you'll have a symptom as a result of that.
Fascinating.
Yeah, and also very well said. And I think I'm gonna cut it right there, right at that 5 o'clock. This was a great conversation. It was a quick space filled with a lot of information, and I really thank both of you, Shellfish, Unk, and McQuack. Thank you for coming up as well. We'll be
Hey,
back
thanks
next.
for having me.
No, thank you, and we'll be back next week, 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, guys. And I love everybody. I hope everybody has a great rest of the night, and maybe we'll see you guys a little later for some more spaces.
Thanks, Death Ninja. Thanks, everyone.